And here is the Writer's Almanac for Tuesday, the 25th of August, 2020. It was on this day in 1718 French immigrants founded the city of New Orleans, named for Philippe II, the Duke of Orleans. The French had claimed the territory in 1682, and they sent a starter population of prisoners, slaves, and bonded servants, arriving in New Orleans to find a swamp with a lot of mosquitoes, surrounded by hostile Indians prone to hurricanes. The French then sent 90 female convicts straight from the Paris jails, chaperoned by a group of nuns until they could be married off to the men who were waiting there for them. 2 engineers laid out plans for the original walled village, which then came to be called the French Quarter. It became an American city in 1803. And it's the birthday of Leonard Bernstein, born in Lawrence, Massachusetts, 1918. He was 40 when he became the musical director of the New York Philharmonic, wrote On the Town and West Side Story, the operetta Candide, symphonies, scores for ballets. Leonard Bernstein conducted his final performance at Tanglewood in 1990 in August, and the following Christmas, just before he died at the age of 72, he conducted Beethoven's Ninth in Berlin to celebrate the crumbling of the Berlin Wall. It's the birthday of the poet Charles Wright, born Pickwick Dam, Tennessee, 1935. His father was a civil engineer for the Tennessee Valley Authority. He was a bookish kid in high school, read all of William Faulkner by the time he graduated. Served 4 years in the U.S. Army, stationed in Italy, where he discovered the cantos of Ezra Pound, and he began writing poetry. Charles Wright, who said, "Without language, there is no poetry. Without poetry, there's just talk. Talk is cheap and proves nothing. Poetry is dear and difficult to come by, but it poles us across the river and puts music in our ears." And it was on this day, 1916, President Woodrow Wilson signed into law the act that established the National Park Service. There already were national parks. Yellowstone had been designated as such in 1872. By the 1890s, there were 3 more: Yosemite, Sequoia, and Kings Canyon, which then was called General Grant National Park. But there was no government agency to protect the national parks. The Army got the job at first, but had no power to enforce laws. Department of Agriculture tried to, the Department of the Interior, but no one was really doing the job until 1916, on this day, when the National Park Service came into being. Here's a poem by Grace Paley, The Poet's Occasional Alternative. I was going to write a poem. I made a pie instead. It took about the same amount of time. Of course, the pie was a final draft. The poem would have had some distance to go, days and weeks, and much crumpled paper. The pie already had a talking, tumbling audience among small trucks and a fire engine on the kitchen floor. Everybody will like this pie. It will have apples and cranberries, dried apricots in it. Many friends will say, "Why in the world did you make only one?" This does not happen with poems. Because of unreportable sadnesses, I decided to settle this morning for a responsive eatership. I do not want to wait a week, a year, a generation for the right consumer to come along. The Poet's Occasional Alternative, a poem by Grace Paley from Begin Again, published by Farrar, Straus and Giroux, and used by permission here on the Writer's Almanac. Now available on PRX for distribution by your local radio station. Be well, do good work, and keep in touch.